up next, we have Roya. She's a research scientist representing Google Women in Tech. Beautiful. And she's going to have a really interesting talk to see if we can be having a harmonious relationship with AI, right? Wonderful. So let's give it up one time for Roya.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the introduction. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the organizer to invite me to Seattle. My first time in Seattle. I'm originally from Iran, but right now I live in Boston. So let's dive into this talk and answer that million-dollar question, that will generative AI actually going to terminate us? The idea of this talk embarked in my mind when I was at the gym. Also, the reason that I'm like this right now, I was talking with my coach, and I realized that for many people who are not directly interacting with AI, the realization of AI is what they are seeing in Hollywood movies such as iRobot or Terminator. And instead of realizing what are the real dangers and what are the real benefits, they imagine this army of robots marching down the street and coming and kill us all, or I don't know, take over the whole world. I was successful, I think, to sit down with my coach and convince him that it's not gonna happen. And I was like, okay, maybe I get the chance to bring this talk to more people and at least help them to have a different realization. This is up to you. You want to take my word for it or not, but I'm just hoping to portray a different perspective. Before I dive into that, as I mentioned, and they mentioned, my name is Roya, and it means a very sweet dream in Farsi. I'm originally from Iran, and I came to US for my studies. I did my PhD under Professor Kamishna Maduri, and he's one of the well-known scientists when it comes to UAVs. Currently, I'm working as a senior research scientist with a biometric company called Ever, and my primary job is to make sure that our biometric solutions are free of bias and impartial. So essentially to make sure that we're bringing the same experience to people despite their basically a skin color, whether they are wearing hijab or not, or any other minorities. I'm also a proud member of Women Tech Maker Ambassador Program by Google, and also I'm a GDG organizer in Boston. Both communities have been amazing in introducing me to people like yourselves who let me to be who I am and let me to know people who are so like-minded, introducing me to friends who turn to be closer than family. Okay, so I'm done talking about myself. Let's talk about generative AI. Generative AI and the difference that it has with the regular AI is essentially you have this model and you train it on this gigantic corpus of data, and now this model is able to not just make a prediction but read between the lines and innovate and bring new ideas to the table. So somehow it's interpolate and extrapolate based on the information that it has gained. But because it sees so much data, now it can give you more reasoning between the lines. You can use it for many different applications. For example, you can use it to generate new text content. What you are seeing as large language model and LLMs, and more useful to us, the chatbots, something like Bard or ChatGPT, who are able to produce content based on all of the data that they have been introduced to. You can also use them to create images. Google image generation is Imagen, but I don't think that it is available to public right now. But other companies like OpenAI, DALL-E 3, which just got introduced last week, I think. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. So you can use DALL-E, Midjourney. If you want a free version, you can use Night Cafe. You can use a Stable Diffusion. So based on essentially the text that you are providing to them, they are able to realize what you are imagining. You can use them for music or you can use them for code. So again, Google version is Duet AI. Copilot is available. It essentially allows you to give them a content, give them what is the description of this code that you want to write, and they are able to generate the code. So I will explain what they are, but let's see how they can come to benefit to us. First and foremost, they are amazing when it comes to education. Think about all of the information that they have, and you can just ask them questions, and they are free to use. They just bestow all of those information to you. And in this current world that there are so many places on the earth that people do not have access to premium education, this tool is phenomenal. It can serve as a tutor, it can serve as a test assessment, it can break the barrier for those who want to learn but they do not have access to teachers, tutors, or premium education in general. They also are able to break down questions for you or make questions for you. So essentially, they are opening a new door to so many people who don't have access. The second major benefit that I think generative AI has brought to the picture is the...
This microphone, I can hold it.
No, I can hold it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are not able to hear until the end.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I wish somebody would tell me. I'm so talkative, and I think my voice has such a high pitch that I never expect people don't hear me. So if you cannot hear me, or if my pronunciation is way too off, let me know. Okay, is it better now? Is it not on? It shows that it is on. Now it's off. On 1, 2, 3. No? Okay, perfect. Should I go back and start from the beginning, or we are good to continue? Okay. So, generative AI when it comes to medicine, it has opened so many doors because first and foremost, it can cover a wider range of undiscovered, let's say, drug structure or molecular structure. Something like AlphaFold was only able to be to existence because of generative AI, and to reach to the answer that they could reach, if it wasn't for the generative AI and human wanted to do that, it would have taken hundreds of years. It also helps with making basically a diagnosis, because generative AI, something like MedPalm, they have all of the information for the books, and they also see a lot of patterns that as a human we are not able to actually contain all of those information when we are dealing with a patient. So it brings a lot of diagnoses both for senior physicians and for junior physicians. They are also coming really handy when you want to improve, for example, something like imaging for cancer patients. A lot of time people are not able to get an MRI, and as a physician you need to be you need to work just with the CT, and making this translation can happen actually through generative AI. And lastly, as one of the things that I think would come really handy is telemedicine. So now a lot of the problem can be sorted out, and you can get a rough idea of what's actually happening just by asking this question from generative AI. Disclaimer here, I'm not saying that generative AI knows what they are saying exactly. So many people are like they are fancy, basically automatic predictor, but they know a lot, so they can give you a glimpse of what is happening. Another major reason that I'm a huge fan of generative AI is because it can contain the information from the most senior physician and pass it to more satellite facilities. And it can be huge because when you are working in a developing country, you do not have access to all of the machines and facilities that you do have here. So it can actually be a game changer. Okay, the funnest stuff that generative AI allows us to do. It can be a creative assistant. I'm quite sure that you all have played around with it when it comes with images. So the sky is the limit for the type of image that you want to create. and it can create anything for you. So I just brought you an example from DALL-E 3, but different models have produced anything that you can imagine. All of those people who are like skydiving, those are amazing. You can also use it for content creation and writing assistance. I'm not really I'm actually feeling really insecure with my English because it's not my mother tongue, so my pronunciations are off and sometimes I mess with the grammar. I do like to share what I know with other people. So generative AI actually came really handy to me because I can put my ideas in there and make this content up to the standards of people who are going to read it. So it makes it looks really nicer for me. I've been using it for that matter a lot. Another benefit that so many other people are using it is enhancement in productivity and automation. So all of those mundane tasks that is your daily work and makes you like, oh my god, I hate to answer all of these emails, I hate to follow for that return that I have to do, or all of the manual tasks that you wish not to have somebody actually do those because they are dangerous, they are boring, or many different reasons. Generative AI can actually help with that. One of the I think innovation that just happened a few days ago was Eureka by the research lab and NVIDIA, that essentially they were able to build this robot that can play with its finger using generative AI to build complex tasks. And if you ever work with the robotics, you know that the motion of the fingers are actually one of the hardest to realize. So, as a scientist who wants to be good at science, when you are talking about the benefits, you must be, or I must be, aware of all of the dangers that it can bring to the picture too. I'm optimistic, and I don't think, and I stand by my word, that generative AI would ever take over. But there are risks associated with us using it, and I'm going to go through some of those risks here. One of the major problems are the ethical concerns, bias and fairness for real. Prior to this, we had seen how using AI can actually translate all of the bias that we see into the data to the actual outcomes of the system. So people's skin complexion or background or the zip code of where they were living would actually impact the outcome of a lending or a credit tool. But now generative AI are actually making it one more level up, because I'm just using this image generator and I prompted a scientist in a white coat. And because the model has been trained with more scientists who are male, the immediate answer is a male in white coat. It just represents the bias against women or non-binary people. And unless we are trying to figure it out now, it will continuously just go on and on like that. Another problem is social manipulation. This video is something that my coach actually showed it to me, and I think his wording was something like, this robot has emotions and it's because they got so stressed out because of this mundane task that they just collapsed. And I looked into TikTok, and actually there are so many TikTok and YouTube shorts that they have the same essentially tag about this. They have the same title, that this robot is emotionally bored that they just collapse. I'm quite sure that you do not see it because the recommendation system for TikTok and YouTube curates it toward your taste, so you see you would not see those sort of news essentially. But these exist, and a lot of people buy into it. These sorts of technologies, these sort of deepfake and fake news technologies, can be really dangerous because they can trigger social manipulation, and they essentially bring distrust because there are so many people who believe into it. Another problem that I think would be a more immediate danger and something that so many of us, even those who are more into the tech world, are concerned about are risk to the employment. One of the main issues is job displacement. So because generative AI does a lot of those work for us, now all of those are not requiring any labor and those people don't have any job anymore. Similar to when the Telegram was got basically replaced, those people did not have a job anymore. Now the danger is actually threatening manufacturing people, people who are drivers, or all of the artists, writer, actor, and actress. You just see the strike a few months or a few weeks ago. The other side of it is also the skill gap. Even if we do want to give all of those people who lost their job new jobs, they require to earn new skills because what was their skill up to that point is not required anymore. When I was building this slide, I was thinking about this great movie called Hidden Figures, and it's about NASA and how they use people to do some of the computation. And then NASA was able to buy a computer from IBM, and all of these people would be out of work. So the lady in this picture, I think her name is Dorothy, and in reality, she got to learn new skills and teach new skills to all of her people so they could keep their jobs. Having this disparity in jobs, basically their skills, and replacement of job would essentially cause in economic disparities. And that's a reality that some of the people have to live with because it would cause some social tension. Some people would definitely, unfortunately, lose their jobs, and if they are not able to adapt, it will cause some sort of division in the society. There are also security concerns. So, if you have heard of social engineering, this is somebody get to know you and use the content that you are putting on internet against you to basically get under your skin to get information. Now you can use generative AI to get all of the data from you with no essentially time. Two, they know people who are like you, so it's easier for them to actually get under your skin and get all of the information that they want. And then it comes with legal and liability challenges. It has two sides to it. One of them is when generative AI is actually harmful. Who is responsible? I drive a Tesla. If I sleep and I just leave it on self-driving and it hits something, is the insurance company gonna pay? For Tesla, I'm the viable one, but in general, who is the person who has to pay? And the other side is who is the IP owner when it comes to something good, when there is this outcome that everybody enjoys. So if I write a book and use generative AI to help me with writing it, am I still the owner or is it somebody else? Or whether it's the company who built the generative AI or whether it is basically the people who provided the data. Okay, so I see everybody is like yawning and sleepy, and I don't think now I'm losing all of my confidence. And just to shine a little bit more light onto it, we have Dr. Lag here, and he is one of the people that I admire for my whole professional life. And I'm like shaking on my one knee, just standing in front of him and talking about AI. I feel like I have nothing to say in here. So if I'm shaking, it's not because like I have crutches, it's because he's here and I'm like, oh my god, what I'm talking about here. Okay, so how we can actually deal with all of this risk? And for all of you who are feeling sleepy, there are like 4 more slides, so just bear with me, I'm done. Okay. So the ethical AI development. This is on us as scientists to make sure that we are not getting greedy and we are not building tools to essentially be used against us. Because when it comes to AI, it is not AI making a decision. It is the the person who is making it to make that decision that, in my opinion, is responsible. Shout out to Google for having this 7 principle that if they are not met, they are not invest in a product. And one of the products that I'm aware that they are not using, they are not actually building, is to have a general face identification algorithm. And because of all of the use cases that it has in basically surveillance, Google never done that. So as long as we are able to make sure that our greed does not take the better of us, I think we are good. The second is to make sure that if we are threatening by AI in the term of cybersecurity, we be sure that we are actually using it as a tool to make ourselves better with cybersecurity. So it can be used for something like encryption. It can also be a tool itself to enhance all of these securities. And lastly, which in my mind is one of the most important one, is to have some sort of law and regulation to make sure that AI cannot be used by bad players. AI is just a tool. It's just like a knife. You can use it to hurt somebody, you can use it to cook your meal. So it's up to the government, it's up to the people who are making the law to make sure that these tools are actually being used in the right direction. So what is for us to do? First and foremost, I invite you to always stay informed. Always be on top of the game. Know what is out there, what is the dangers, what are the risks, and what are the benefits of generative AI. Also, advocate for ethical AI. As long as we are stopping ourselves from buying or using that tool that there is a maybe shady background to it, even if it's a little bit cheaper, I think it will stop so many of organizations to invest on those, because essentially it comes to money and profit. If they know that making a product will not generate revenue, which it's us not letting them to generate revenue, then they will not make it. Also, engage in these public discussions. I'm sure that actually the Thanksgivings are coming, and we are all sitting on a table, and there are somebody who thinks, oh, AI will take over the world, and all of these robots will march down the street, and next year we will not have this Thanksgiving dinner because AI took over the world. So please, sit down with them, let them know what are the risks, what are the benefits, and help them to have a different view. They can make a decision, but help them to see from the different perspective. Also encourage responsible regulation. So if you have, you can call your representative or your Senate, the House or Senate, and ask them to actually be more active in this trend. I know in Europe they are trying harder and more to have this regulation, and I'm quite sure that US would follow. Promote inclusivity. I would say that's one of the most important ones, maybe after just educating yourself, because as long as we have all of these different views, we have women, we have non-binary people, we have people from different religion, nationality, skin complexion, anything, who have different concerns, and they are standing on as scientists, as people who are using or building this system, then because of all of their backgrounds, we would be able to make more inclusive tools as well. And lastly, be flexible, please. Those who are stiff, the branches who are stiff would be broken, but a flexible branch will not be break even with the worst of the wind. So just educate yourself and try to shift the skills, because that's what happen. It will come, and some of those skills that we are so proud of today won't be useful tomorrow. Just a funny story that I learned driving with manual gears back in Iran, and I came here, and then it was automated gears, and now there are self-driving cars. So all of my background of being good with driving and knowing how to handle the gears that my passengers would not feel anything is useless now. But you learn new stuff. And lastly, a wise man recently told me, fear biological ignorance, more than artificial intelligence. And I would like to finish this talk with that word. Thank you very much again. I'm sorry if it was boring. I couldn't move a lot because of all of this. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Questions? Yes, please.
So with the what you talked about with the large language models and artificial intelligence being trained with information that like makes it biased. So the example you use with when it generates a scientist and you don't specify anything, it gives you like a man, or 9 times out of 10 it gives you a man. Is it as easy as just flooding that same LLM with, you know, in your example, a whole bunch of, you know, women scientists? Will that balance it out, or is it harder than that to like make it unbiased?
I think that's a great question. I can answer that based on what I do experience, but I never trained an LLM from scratch myself, so that's a harder question for me. You have like here, and he can answer that question better. But in my opinion, you always can fine tune. So by fine tuning, you get all of the best of the information that you can. You want from this major significant course of data, but then you are going to fine tune it based on what actually comes not enough essentially in your model, and that fine tuning fixes some of this problem. But you need to be aware that garbage in, garbage out. So if your model has learned something based on like this significant data, it's harder to make it to unlearn those information. For a smaller model, I would suggest to curate your loss function to actually penalize the system if it makes a bias scenario, but it's harder to do it for a large language model for all of the basically variable that they have. Okay, I have 5 more minutes, so one more question, please.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about so many of these tools, Gen AI and things, are really easy to do, and so it's very easy just to become overly reliant on them. What are your thoughts about how that affects like skill atrophy and some skills being worth preserving, like having to write without too much AI-assisted text generation as being helpful in clarifying thinking and so forth?
So I'm sharing my personal thoughts on that. I was raised back in Iran, and for our transition exam, we were not allowed to use the calculators. So my mom would never let us to use calculator ever, and it helped me to be smarter and faster with my numbers. But when I came here and everybody was using the calculators, I felt like I'm not as good as they are. So I think it is essential for us to be able to do all of those things, at least to certain points, without using any automation, without using any language model or any sort of generative system. But having the skills to be able to use those generative systems would be essential, because you are competing with a world who knows how to use it and who is actually using. So if you are not really good at it, knowing how to do it yourself would not help you much. Yes.
Yes, one question. So, firstly, thank you for the talk.
Thank you.
And my question is, I've been reading recently about this concept called hallucinations. So, for Gen AI, I wonder if in your recent project you have faced this challenge. I mean, what are your take how to resolve it? Well, not resolve it.
I'm nobody to say how to resolve hallucinations.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it happens, and honestly, I don't have a good answer to that. I just noticed that it happens, but I don't think that I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry. I think that was the last one. Thank you. So I landed the last one with something that I don't know. So it shows that it can make a meme for later on. Thank you all again, and